Hey Western, it's Ian from Big Purple Couch, your health reporter. I'm here today to talk to Dr. Laura Meisner, who teaches sports sociology. And homecoming is coming up this weekend, so football's kind of a big deal, but why exactly is that? Well, I'm here today to find out why. Homecoming is coming up this weekend, and it's extremely popular, and I kind of want to know, what is the phenomenon of football that we have here, not only at Western, but at all the universities across Canada and North America?
Well, I'm not necessarily sure that it's football, per se, the phenomenon that's happening here, particularly when you talk about homecoming weekend. It's about the event in of itself. It's one of those opportunities that brings people together that don't normally get the chance to spend the time together. So from sort of a theoretical perspective, we talked about that as being a communitas, so building community. And football offers a unique opportunity to bring large numbers of people together at a particular event. So it's a celebratory aspect of it. So lots of events offer that opportunity. At the university, we tend to promote football because it seems to be our premier event, our premier sport that brings in a lot of money, has a lot of donors, has a lot of history at the university. So it is that activity that binds people together and brings them into this big celebration. And it's a lot of fun to go to a football game. And here we do well, so that is even better opportunity to bring people together.
So it's like, when you go to a football game, the stands are packed, especially when it comes for homecoming and people are pouring out into the streets, all the students. You kind of get this sense of mob mentality. Can you maybe describe that and the effects that it can have on people?
Well, it's an interesting one because I think in football there tends to be less of a mob mentality than there is in some of the other sports. But in any gathering of that sort, you're going to bring people together around a common goal. And when that happens, people tend to start to think alike. This groupthink happens. And that's where you see maybe that mob mentality happening, some of maybe the problems that we've seen in past with some of the events occurring this year. At a football game, just the nature of the university level sport, it's unlikely that that's going to go in a negative direction because it is about a celebration, about a wonderful event. And university sport is about bringing the community together. So that extends beyond just students and staff and faculty. People bring their families, their friends, so there is more of an element of that type of community than this mob mentality. So the likeliness that that's ever going to turn into a negative perspective or something negative happening is very unrealistic. I think at the university level, it's not that it won't happen. It can happen anytime there's big celebrations with lots of people fueled by alcohol as well. However, we do a lot at the university to deter that from happening by promoting that family atmosphere of an event like this.
Now you mentioned that there's drinking involved, of course. Do you feel like football kind of plays an impact on that part of university culture?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think any sport at the university level has that culture embedded in it. It is about a mentality of celebration, and part of that celebration does involve alcohol, which then can fuel a whole host of problems. So we have to think strategically about how we temper what happens during an event in a game. And at lots of events, lots of games, we don't sell alcohol. And I think that is one way to help try and deter some of the negative mob mentality from happening, because it can promote some negative aspects of an event where we really want it to be about the celebration, about the sport, about the athletes. We do know that, we're not naive in thinking that athletes aren't going out and drinking after the games and celebrating themselves, but I think it's about tempering that and promoting what we think is important, the sense of community, the family atmosphere of the event and of the game, and the celebration that these athletes are phenomenal and that we're doing well.
And for the athletes that do quite well, they kind of can become mini celebrities at the university. Can you maybe comment on kind of the culture that surrounds that and how we kind of build up these students who are just like any other student, but then they're amazing at a sport and then they get so much praise?
Absolutely. I think there's two aspects of that. There's one element that's very critical of that, and at times I am very critical of that sport in general, particularly football in general, the male-dominated aspect of it. But I think that stems from the fact that we tend to hold up those student athletes as being prime examples of what we want to see, because it is such a celebration of experience, of athleticism, as well as their educational experience. So on one hand, I'm very critical of doing that because we have students across campus who have phenomenal achievements, and we don't see those achievements because it's not sport. At the same time, I think in society and as human beings, we need that sort of heroism and to look up to people. And I think it's a wonderful thing that we can look up to our student athletes and say they have the ability to balance such a difficult schedule, a difficult activity of playing high performance sport, being involved in elite level sport, and attaining high academic standards. And I think that's one of the things that's most important about Canadian universities is we really value student athletes. We call them student athletes. In an American system, they're athletes who also go to school in many systems. And I see that as highly problematic. Whereas I think in the CIS, in our system, they're students first and athletes second. And that's what we hold up to praise, is that they do well at both of those things.
Thank you very much for your insight and have a happy homecoming.
Thank you.